Alrighty. Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody is doing really, really well. My name is Tepo Khapane. I'm part of the team at Blackbullion South Africa. And thank you guys so much for joining us. There's so much to look forward to this evening. And I'm super, super excited. So, nearly 4 years ago, we launched Blackbullion South Africa. And since then, we've given more than 16,000 young people across the country free access to our platform, thanks to the incredible support of Sanlam Foundation, our partners, and of course, our stakeholders. That's 16,000 young people building their confidence, learning new skills, and taking small but powerful steps towards a better financial future. So lots of great things happening on the Blackbullion side. So why are we here tonight? We will be balling on a budget as part of Money Smart Week South Africa. And of course, I'll be telling you a bit about the initiative, what it's all about, how you guys can get involved in it as well. So much to look forward to this evening. So for those that have never heard of Money Smart Week, it's an amazing national financial education initiative that brings various organizations together to talk about money in fun, in practical, in accessible ways. And this year's theme is Money Smart, the Power of Possible. So it's aspirational, it's big thinking. And we thought we should flip it the other way, right? We want you to think big, but starting with $100, right? So hence balling on a budget, what 100 Rand could become. So that's our theme for today. That's what we want you to think a little bit about. How do you take this 100 Rand and really take it far? Now, we know that big goals can feel like they need big money, but financial progress doesn't always start that way. You know, sometimes it starts with 100 Rand, with 50 Rand, with 20 Rand, and the choice is to use that money, even though it's little, more intentionally, right? So today we're unpacking how 100 Rand can disappear quickly or it can become something bigger. Whether it's savings, whether it's investing, whether it's paying off debt, whether it's going towards transport, towards data, toward a side hustle, or any other goal that you deem to be really, really important. So this isn't about pretending that 100 Rand will solve everything and change your world, but it's about showing that small money used consistently can create more options over time. So that's what today's session is all about. And then please do get into the chat. Let me know, where are you? Where are you currently watching from? What are you looking forward to? Get into the chat. Let me know, where are you currently watching from? I'm all the way in Johannesburg as per normal, but it's not about me, it's about you. Let me know, where are you guys currently watching from? In the meantime, let me have a look at what's happening in our menu. This is what you can expect for today's session. We've got some goodies, so we'll tell you how you can unlock and potentially win some vouchers today. We'll spill the tea, which means we're going to do a little bit of some gossiping. We'll tell you a bit about Blackbullion SA for those that don't have access as yet. I'll be introducing our amazing and stunning guests. They'll be coming through. We'll play another game of hot money takes, but this time we'll be focusing on saving and investing. We'll then get a savings recipe from Miranda, right? She's cooked it up for us. And then, of course, we're going to get an investing recipe from Umpo. And then we'll have a Q&A where we can engage with them and ask them questions. Guess what, guys? We even have voice notes. We've got questions in the form of voice notes. My goodness, things have changed. And then we're going to be announcing our voucher winners, and then we'll be closing off the webinar. That's what you can look forward to in terms of today's session. All right, let me see what's happening in the chat. Let's see what's happening in the chat. Alrighty. Comfort says I'm all the way in Nelspruit. Mandisa says I'm tuning in from PMB, Pietermaritzburg. Olile says I'm watching all the way from Durban. Pindulu says I'm out in Limpopo. Nice. Ntombi Kaya says I'm watching from Bloemfontein. Sfiso's out in Limpopo. Tsakane out in Limpopo. Misali in Cape Town. Another one in Cape Town being Khomotso. Amanda in the Val. Hey, we've got people from all over the country. My goodness. Big shout out to you guys for joining the session. Alrighty, in terms of those vouchers, those goodies, we've got 4 vouchers, right? A mix of Dischem and Mr. Price vouchers. Each voucher is worth $100. And at the end of this, we'd love to give those vouchers away. So, in order to stand a chance to win, to get into the draw, you need to do one of three things or do all three, right? Increase the chances of winning. So, engage with us in the chat box, follow us on social media, and then ask any questions or even share your comments in the chat, right? The more you engage, the better your chance of winning. So please don't be shy. In terms of social media, we are everywhere. We are on Facebook, we are on X, we are on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we are on LinkedIn. We're even on YouTube. So if you'd like to watch some of our previous webinars, hit us up on YouTube. But we are everywhere. So please do catch us on the socials. And then, of course, if you'd like to interact with us at Black Bullion, pop us an email, blackbullion@wafunda.com. Blackbullion@wafunda.com. Alrighty, so we're going to spill the tea, right? I want us to spill the tea for a little bit, right? It means we're going to do a little bit of some gossiping, right? I want to know from you guys, since we're talking about saving and investing, right? If your savings had an enemy, who or what would it be? I know myself. Food is my problem, guys. I'm a big guy. Food is my problem. I even dream of food. Food is the problem for my savings. But it isn't about me, it's about you guys. If your savings had an enemy, what or who would it be? I should get into the chat, see what's going on. Mandisa says, it's the skincare products, Mandisa, I know you want to look good. I get it. Pretty says, Uber Eats, Nkosi Yami. Roberto saying, it's definitely food. Lungile saying, it's the drip, man. It's the clothes. Tolofelo saying, it's definitely food. Tipiso says, it's the impulse spending. Priya saying, oh, goodness me, it's the snacks. Tippy says, it's alcohol. I get you, I get you. Sitole says definitely clothes. Joy says food and skincare. Silo says clothes and sneakers. Amanda says clothes. Wiseman says soft life. Soft life is the problem. I'm hoping our two guests today are going to help us deal with some of these things in terms of these enemies that are against the pocket. Thank you guys so much for sharing. So those that have never heard of Black Bullion before, what do? We do all types of cool things such as webinars, but we also have a platform that you can access for free. It's youth focused. It's a digital financial literacy platform. It is not a course, but it is a tool to help you better understand your money. From saving to investing to tax to having those awkward conversations with your parents about money. So a whole lot of interesting content. We've got articles, we've got videos, we've got a built-in quiz, we've got a budgeting tool, we've got a money personality tool. It is an absolutely amazing platform. And part of it is getting access to the webinars as well. So if you don't have Black Bullion as yet, please do scan the QR code and you'll be able to sign up for free. We do not market any products and services and funeral cover, none of that. We're purely all about the education. So if you don't have access to Black Bullion, please do scan the QR code and get onto the platform. Alrighty, so I'm going to be introducing our amazing and stunning speakers, two very, very talented and amazing ladies. You might have seen them on social media because they're big on that. So I'm going to firstly bring on Mpho Mpapuli onto the screen. You'll know her very well. We've gone on many, many dates. I think we do speed dating with the financial advisor. Hey, we've been on dates with her. She's amazing. She's an award-winning independent financial planner, an educator, a content creator. We constantly have her here with us. And of course, you can find her on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Instagram as well. Mpho, great to have you.
It's great to be here, Tepo. It's always a pleasure to have these conversations. Unfortunately, it's not a date today, but neither veiling you prepared for a date.
Oh man, it's so good to have you. You're looking good, and of course, we're looking forward to having this conversation with you. Then, of course, we've got a second stunning and amazing speaker as well, Miranda Zulu, a financial planner, a finance coach. She's all about holistic money management, and she doesn't make it complicated. She takes it straight to the point. I love her content, and she's everywhere. You can get her on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on YouTube, and of course, she's also on Instagram as well. I'm going to bring her onto the screen. Miranda, how are you doing? You well?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be here. I'm excited.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. I'm so excited to have both of you. Before we delve quickly into the game, I want to take you guys to the spill the tea very quickly. And maybe in a few seconds, you can basically tell me who's the enemy against your savings. Put, you want to quickly go first? Who's the enemy against your savings?
Wow. There is this brand, and I won't name the brand, but slogan Sabo City, just do it.
Oh,
And I'll just walk past there and I'll just do it. So it is that brand. So for me, it's the clothes,
Yeah,
guys. Yeah,
okay.
the clothes are. Yeah,
A big one
I'm
for you.
trying, but if you should see my Shein cart just right now. It's a mess.
And Miranda, with you, is it also clothes, or do you have a different enemy against some of your savings?
my family. Oh my goodness. I've got a
Yeah.
3-year-old. I'm always spending so much on my family. So yeah, it's
Okay,
them.
sometimes it is a person. Yeah, sometimes it is a loved one. We love you, but you're not loving our pocket. That's the big problem.
Yeah,
So, this
yeah.
is what we're going to do for today's session. We're going to kick it off with hot money takes, but we're focusing on saving and investing because it's all about the $100. For those that have never joined our sessions before, this is how the game works. We have got 6 hot money takes. The takes will come onto the screen, and then you can vote in the chat. Do you think it's true? Do you think it's false? Do you think it's complicated? If we all agree that something is true, we move on. If we all agree that something is false, we move on. But if one person says it's complicated or it's true, it's false, it's a mix, then we have to discuss whatever that hot take is. Those are the rules of the game. Mpo, I've got you. Miranda, I've got you. In the chat, please also get into it. So we're actually going to start with saving. Saving is the first one that we're going to start with. So this is the hot take. It's better to save through a stokvel than your own. Accountability and pressure can sometimes beat willpower. So you know that pressure from a stokvel with Tepo and the 500 rand yako ikuphi. Maybe it can get you to actually save. Mpo, do you agree? Disagree? Complicated? Just let me know. Just the one word.
Complicated.
Complicated. Let's hold it there. Miranda, agree? Disagree? Do you think it's complicated?
I can agree.
You can agree with it. So already within the panel, it's a mix, right? Most people are saying it's true. Refilo says it's true. Khomotso saying it's true. Kiara saying it's definitely true. Daniela saying it's true. Very interesting. Katekani says it's false. But majority of people are saying it is true. Smongile says it's complicated though, right? So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I would have thought stokvel helps. Okay, Miranda, let me start with you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around this specific one?
I think the last part, accountability and pressure can sometimes beat willpower. A lot of the times, if you're trying to save on your own, I have had countless conversations with people who save and then transfer back into their current account. And they're like, yeah, save. And when you look, it's actually like they don't have that willpower or that boundary around their savings. So being in a community stokvel, as you're saying, Tsepo, you can't spend that 500 rand because it needs to go into the stokvel. That accountability can sometimes help you.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Mpo, what are your thoughts on this one?
I definitely agree with Miranda that a stokvel can be beneficial, especially on the accountability part, because then you know that every single month, with no fail, there's 1,000 rand or 2,000 rand that needs to go somewhere, right? But it also depends on how the stokvel is structured, because you've got like stokvels where you pool money. During the year, and then you share the money at the end of the year. So it's complicated part comes onto those kind of stokvels where you pull money into one bag and then you have to share it at the end of the year. And we've seen on social media how those fights actually happen, and you like when you spent our stokvel money, and whoever that's responsible for the stokvel money would be like, it's fine, I can just take this 1,000 rands and then I'll replace it, and then at the end of the year they can't replace it. So it's good in the accountability part, especially where you actually send money to someone every single month. But then in terms of trusting someone or having the right platforms or having the right structure for a stokvel saving. I mean, there's also now stokvel accounts through the banks and all of that. So if you have that where you know that your money is safe, then definitely I'll go for a stokvel.
That definitely makes sense. And then I can quickly see in the chat, Daniela says Stockfells can help because the money isn't in your hands, rather it's far and you don't have access to it. So really, really interesting in terms of some of those content comments. So let us know what your thoughts are on a Stockfell. So let's get into hot take number 2. Once again, we're still on savings. This is a really interesting one. It says, there's no point to saving when the cost of living keeps going up. What are we saving? Asina mali. Really, really interesting one. Get into the chat. Let us know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts? Miranda, agree, disagree, complicated. What do you think about this one? And then once you give me
It's
the
a
word,
false.
you're
Don't
saying false.
agree.
Don't agree at all. Mpo, where are you? Do you agree, disagree? Do you think it's false? What are your thoughts on it?
It is 100% false. I completely disagree as well.
100% false. You know what? I'm looking through the chat and we're all on the same page. There's no need to even discuss this one. We're all on the same page. I'm so proud of us. We've never been on the same page before. I'm so proud of us. All right, let's get into hot take number 3, where I think things might get a little bit dicey here. Right, number 3, enjoy your money while you're young and fresh. You can save and worry about it when you're a little bit older. I always hear this one. Always hear it. Enjoy your money while you're young. You can save and worry about it when you're a little bit older. Please do get into the chat. Let us know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is it true? Is it false? What are your thoughts on it? Mpo, where are you on this one? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think it's complicated?
I completely disagree.
Disagree on it. Miranda, where are you with this one? Agree? Disagree? Do you think it's complicated?
Complicated.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to actually start with you, Miranda, because you're the one that's saying it's complicated. Break it down for us. Why do you think it's complicated?
Okay, it's complicated in the sense that I think there should be a balance that you can do. So there is that thing of enjoying what you have in the now and spending it, but also thinking about the future. And the approach of completely switching off the spending whilst you're young and saving for yourself in the future can really hinder you. So trying to strike a balance in how much am I enjoying and spending in the now, but also remembering your future self, because your future self is going to come. As long as you're alive and time is going, you're going to get older. And so you don't want to regret not spending and enjoying it when you had the time when you were young, but also then when you get to the future and haven't saved anything, now you're starting from scratch. So trying to strike a balance between the two, I think, is the best approach to do it. And then not creating that like regretfulness and remorse around your finances, because now you know you need to save, and you never end up enjoying your money. So I think that's why it's a bit complicated. It's then the conversation of how do you strike the balance, which people struggle with, because then they're like, how much of now do I enjoy? How much of later do I save? And then it becomes a bit more of a complicated conversation.
Makes sense. I think important, there is an element of a balancing act, but I'm keen to get your thoughts on it.
So I'm disagreeing because, there's an element. Miranda's completely right. Having that balance when you are young, because I mean, I can imagine when you get your first paycheck, you get your new car, new apartment, you have all these plans, you want to change your wardrobe and all of that, and that is great. However, if you focus on I'm just enjoying my money, then you might forget to save, and you might put saving way too late. If you think about retirement, if you tell a 22-year-old about saving for retirement, you're like, what do you mean I need to save for my retirement because I'm only 22? But then when you start saving for your retirement now, instead of when you are like 40, when you get to the age of 40, 45, now you're trying to catch up because you're realizing that actually I don't have enough time towards saving for my retirement, and now you have to put in large amounts of money, and there's already debts in place. If you have children, you have a family at that time, it might be a bit difficult for you to now start catching up with your retirement savings. And for people who have actually joined our speed dating sessions, I've previously spoken about the 50-30-20 money rule, and I feel like if you stick to that rule, then you'll definitely be able to enjoy your money and still be be able to save for your future self, because the 30% of your income, that is where you get to actually enjoy your money. That 30% is for your outings, it's for your vacations, it's for your clothes, your food, whatever that you want to spend your money on. Just as long as you stick within those margins and you still prioritize saving and investing for the future.
Makes sense. I think you guys have given us beautiful perspectives on it. Just reading a few comments real quickly. Siabonga says, false. Costs add up the older you get, which I think is really, really true as well. Khumuto says, that's one of the advices that we normally hear from our peers when you're telling them that you're actually saving. Another one coming from Ntwako saying, false. In this economy, please save, 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 even if it's 2 Rand. Angel says, that's definitely false. It's better to start saving from as little as you have so that you can achieve those dreams a little bit later, and then you can start to relax as well. So lots of really interesting comments. I think because we've spoken quite a lot about savings, we should do a little bit of a deeper dive on actually savings. If I do have $100, where do I even start? So we're going to hand over to Miranda, who's going to take us through Savings 101, sharing her recipe on if you've got $100 and you want to save, where do you start? So myself and Mpo, we're going to leave the stage and we're going to leave Miranda to take us through her version of savings and what that looks like. So Miranda, it's over to you in terms of Saving 101.
Thank you so much, Mpo. Nsepo, sorry. So let's chat about what savings is, and how do you go about saving and starting that conversation. So what is saving? Saving means setting money aside on purpose for something specific. So it's there when you need it, not just money that happens to be left over. So this is intentional. We can already see that saving is an intentional act. It matters even when the amount feels small. And today we're talking around what can you do with 100 Rand, because saving starts building the habit, right? There's also a difference between saving and simply leaving money in your everyday account. So the saving part is then the intentional part, where you are now intentionally putting that money away for a specific reason, right? And so, oh, sorry, did I click going forward? Oh, sorry. So saving means separating that money from your day-to-day spending so that it has a better chance of staying saved. Tipo, I had a prompt for the question, but I can't see it come up. Thank you so much. So let me know in the chats, do you already keep your savings separate from your spending money, or does it all sit in one account? Let me know. So I like to refer to savings as your personal insurance. This is how I frame it. Saving is your personal insurance. So if you think around insurance, insurance works by setting money aside so that if something goes wrong, you're covered, right? So saving also does the same job, except instead of paying premiums to a company, you're insuring yourself on your own terms, where your money stays yours and if nothing goes wrong, that money is yours. It becomes your safety net. Think around insurance. So that is my perspective of it and why I like to call it as your personal insurance. Okay, so here when we talk about starting to save, we start with a goal. Saving is much easier when your money has a clear job. I've had countless conversations with people where they are saving, but they don't really know why they're saving. They don't have a goal, and that's why it's such a struggle for them to stay consistent and to continue to save. So I want to introduce 2 goal types that are worth knowing. The one is an emergency fund and another one is a sinking fund. The first one, emergency fund, this is money that you save for unexpected occurrences. Think job loss, medical costs, car repairs, or anything else that could push you into debt. Anything that could happen now and you hadn't prepared for it and you hadn't made plans for it, that is what an emergency fund would do. So if you are someone who has a stable income, maybe a 9-to-5 job, you've got consistent income, you should aim around 3 to 6 months of living expenses that you will have in your emergency fund. If you've got unpredictable income, so you're a freelancer, you're an entrepreneur, you can aim around anywhere closer to 12 months because your income is unpredictable and your income is at risk. risk, you can then save a little bit more to give yourself that buffer. And if it feels too big, right, that 3 months, that 6 months, or even that 12 months, it feels like too big of an amount to start, I recommend doing what is called a starter emergency fund. This is enough to cover one essential expense. So for example, 7,000 Rand to cover a month's rent is a realistic starting budget, and then you can start there. So you can identify what this essential expense you want to start with, and then do your starter emergency fund. What's important here is once you've built your starter emergency fund, so that's 7,000 Rand, that 5,000 Rand, whatever the amount is for you, then you continue to build from there. But at least it gives you something instead of feeling overwhelmed by this big number and this big goal and then eventually never doing it. Can we move on? So the second one that I spoke about is sinking funds. So these are for expenses that you know that are coming up. A holiday, a phone upgrade, if you want to study further, Christmas, we all know how expensive December is as a South African country. We all know that's one of the months that we spend the most because of Christmas, family, and all of that. So this would be a savings that you create for those type of expenses that you know are coming up that you can anticipate. You set a target, you choose a deadline, and you save towards that occurrence monthly. Other goals like that would be maybe side hustle capital. You want to start a side hustle, you want to start a business, supporting family, there's something happening, or you want to, support a family member, but now you want to allocate money to save it. For big financial milestones like a car, a home, a deposit, for longer term savings goals and essentials, you can save it in your sinking fund, knowing that it's for a specific goal. The key here is that your goal and your time frame determine where you save. Short-term money should be easy to access and expose it to less risk or no risk at all. And then longer-term money, you can then sit it somewhere where it's a little less accessible, it potentially earns you a little bit more, and you're taking on a little bit more risk by putting it there. Okay, so tell me in the comments, what's the one thing you're saving towards right now? Let's see some of the comments. Mandisa saying being alive, Jay, is an emergency. I can definitely relate to that. I don't separate it because I save unintentionally. If I save with a purpose, I will chow it. That's interesting perspective, Tarelo. And what are you saving for now? So the Kitelo says she's saving for honors. Garabelo saying for Memulo, pretty, for a phone upgrade. Lesonolo for to buy a phone, getting a passport. So I'm really glad to hear all of you guys have some sort of an idea of what you guys are saving towards right now, and you've got some goals around that. If we can move forward. Okay, so what can you realistically do with the 100 Rand? As Tsepo started the conversation, he highlighted how 100 Rand is just the idea. It's not something that's going to change your life overnight, and that's not the point, right? The conversation here is more about building the habit, the consistency of saving 100 Rand today, then doing it again and again. And over time, that consistency ends up building your confidence. It makes it easier when it's time to increase the amount. It makes it easier when you are in a time or in a space where you can save a little bit more. And this is what consistency can look like. Saving 100 Rand a month. In a year, you've got a 1,200 Rand. Or maybe you're someone who is able to save 100 Rand a week for a year. That's 5,200 Rand. So this is the same amount each time, but it's saved differently. And then the saving more of it adds up quickly, and it builds up. So what's important here is to start small, to stay consistent, and to build there. And I think I want to highlight to say that I know sometimes it may feel like you don't have enough, you don't even have that 100 Rand to save. And I think the conversation here is not so much focused on the amount, but so much focused on the habit, building that habit in, even if it's a 20 Rand, even if it's 10 Rand, whatever you can afford, but don't get out of the habit of putting something aside and saving. So be honest in the chat. Could you commit to saving 100 Rand today? Yes or no? Let me know. I'm getting some yeses, Yay! Love to see it. I hope as you guys are saying yes, you can then take the yes and implement it into your everyday life. No. All right, so where can you save? Not all savings options work the same way. It's important to compare your access, your interest, your fees, and the minimum balances before choosing where to save your money. Let's look at some traditional options. So the first one is a traditional savings account. This gives you easy access. You're able to withdraw from it anytime. They usually have low fees, and they're good for emergencies and short-term goals. So if you are saving your emergency fund, you can look at this one because you want to be able to access this easily without it being an issue of you getting your hands in that money in case of an emergency. The next one is a notice account, and this one has higher interest, but you need to give a notice before withdrawing. Think 32-day accounts, call account. Those have a time frame, so you can either access your money by giving a notice for 7, 14 days, or 32 days. And if you want to withdraw before the term, so before the 7 days, you may incur some sort of penalties for withdrawing before time. So you need to think around if you are going and using a 32-day account, a 14 call account, for example, you might not want to save your emergency fund here because today is the emergency. The emergency is right now. You now need to get access to that money and you don't want to incur penalties on that. But if something that you can, it's not so much of an emergency, maybe to a sinking fund, you may look at this account to save it in there. Then the other one is a fixed deposit. So you're locking in your lump sum. Usually fixed deposits have a minimum balance of 5,000 Rand. Some places have 1,000 Rand. It just depends on the facility that you're using. You lock in a lump sum for a set period of time for a predictable return, and easy access or early access may come up with penalties. Usually here we're talking about around a set period of time of 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, or 36 months. It just depends on the type of fixed deposit structure. And usually the more time you leave it in the fixed deposit, the more interest that you may get. It just kind of depends on the structure. And then another one is retail savings bonds. So these are low risk government backed savings investment options with a fixed or inflation linked returns. Also with this one, they're more locked away, so you don't get access to your money for that period of which you've chosen, and you aren't able to access your money, but the return is guaranteed in the sense that you know how much money you're going to get at the end of the term, and the interest is predetermined up front, so you kind of know what to expect with this one. Okay, so then there are other options. We've touched a little bit on stokvels, saving with the group on a set schedule. There's a big benefit of accountability. And as Mpho mentioned, there's different types of stokvels. There's rotating stokvels, which don't earn you an interest, but the money rotates between members each month. There's a savings stokvel where you put your money away in a savings account, and you guys at the end of the year, you split that income, that money you were saving with the interest, and you split it evenly. So these are the different types of options that you can use. Another one is an access bond. So if you have a mortgage facility and you've got an access bond facility with your bank, you can put extra money here, paid into your home loan. It can help reduce your interest, but you are able to also get access to this later. So you're able to access money that you pay in addition that's in your access bond. And some people use the access bond as a way of saving for the emergency funds, for example. The key here is that savings should protect your money, keep it accessible enough for your goal, and ideally earn you some interest. Investing is different. It involves taking on a bit more risk, and there's a chance of a greater growth. And that's what Mpho will unpack with us today. But when you think around saving, you're thinking around protecting your capital, protecting your money, and earning some type of interest or return. But here you will not see great growths. So when you're looking for savings options, you're not looking for high returns. You're looking for somewhere to keep your money safe, but also understand how are you able to access your money? What are the terms around accessing your money? Is it a fixed deposit, as I mentioned? Is it a traditional savings account? Is it a call account? What are the stipulations and what are the penalties and fees should I want to access this money before the term? So chat time. Have you ever saved through a stokvel or group savings plan? Let me know. Do you use a stokvel? Have you ever saved using a stokvel? Some saying stokvel, some are saying no. Okay, it seems like most of you guys are doing individual savings. Sbongile is saying yes, Tebile, yes. Mandisa, no, she's never used a stokvel. Well, yeah, that's good. It's good to find a system that works for you. If you prefer saving on your own and having that control, that's also great. Okay, so here are some practical steps in helping you start to save, and something that you can actually stick to. So the first one is paying yourself first. So this implies treating your saving like a bill, like you owe yourself. And before anything, before spending, before debit orders, before anything, you've already allocated and paid yourself first, allocated some money towards your saving. The second thing is to automate it, setting up an automatic transfer on your payday, maybe a stop order, debit order, if your bank allows it, to transfer that money out of your account into your savings account without you even thinking about it. The next thing is to keep it separate. Use a different account so you're less tempted to spend it. I even have some clients keep it in a different bank account if they have another bank account that is not their traditional everyday bank account, so that it's out of mind, out of sight, and that's money that they're not seeing every day, and they're not tempted to save it, to spend it rather. Save when you get paid. Don't wait to see what's left at month end. Treat it, as I said, one of your bills, as something that is an obligation, something that is filtered into your budget already, instead of waiting to see what's left, because a lot of the times you usually feel like there's not much left after you spent everything. And then the next thing is to start small and stay consistent. Don't put in this large savings amount or this exorbitant amount that you can't afford. Put in a comfortable amount that you can comfortably put away every month. That's not going to affect your overall budget and how much you have access to save, so that it's a smaller amount, you can sustain it, and then over time you can build it up. Especially if you're someone who's never saved before, you're starting to save and you want to start saving, you need to start building up that habit small by little, until then you get into the habit of being consistent. The major takeaway here is that you don't need a lot to start. You don't need to start big. You need to start with what you have, give it a purpose, and build the habit of saving. Okay, so last one. Comment one tip that you're going to try this week from the list. Are you going to be paying yourself first? Are you going to be automating your savings because you haven't gotten them automated yet? Are you going to keep it separate? Maybe you have your savings in your current bank, you're saving it in your current bank, maybe separating it into a different bank or a different account is going to be helpful for you. Maybe saving up front when you get paid instead of waiting until month end. Maybe you're someone who has been setting a large savings amount that's not realistic to your current situation, and maybe you now need to dial it back and start small and build up the consistency. Let me know, what tip are you going to start implementing? Paying yourself first, Elizabeth. Consistency, absolutely. Keeping it separate, CD, absolutely. Automating it, prayer. Yes.
Yeah, seeing so many comments coming through, and I've also saved some of them. The one thing that's really interesting that keeps coming up, Miranda, is this question of, you spoke about all these different options for the $100 if I want to start saving. How do I know which option is right for me? Which I think it's an interesting one because it keeps coming up. So do I do a stokvel? Do I do a notice deposit? How do I know what's right for me?
I think the main thing is the intention behind the saving. If it's an emergency fund saving, think around, if you were to have an emergency now today and you needed access to that money. If it's in a fixed deposit, it doesn't work in your favor, because then now you get penalized for wanting to withdraw that money before time, right? Because an emergency doesn't tell you when it's coming up. So you might want to look at a traditional savings account instead of a fixed deposit. But if it's something that's, you want to study in 2 years, then you can put it away in a fixed deposit, because that's something that's coming at a later stage. So you have to look around the intention of what you're saving for. Then maybe using things like a stokvel. December, most people use stokvels for the end of year expenses, children's school fees, Christmas, as I mentioned, birthdays. So look at the intention. What is the saving thing for? What are you saving for? Then find one that's going to suit that particular purpose or reason for you to look into. So yeah, you have to look at it in that way.
Yeah, the big lesson for me is, don't worry about the amount. Start small, get into the habit, and then you can start to figure out the amount. Absolutely amazing. I brought Mpho back onto the stage because it's now all about investing. So we're going to continue with our hot money takes, but this time we're focusing on investing. Right, so here's the first hot money take, all about investing. Now, the first one says, investing is like gambling or playing the lottery. there's a good chance that you will lose your money. So one that I always hear, investing is like gambling or playing the lottery. There's a good chance that you will lose your money. Paul, do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think it's one that's a little bit complicated?
Complicated.
Complicated. Miranda,
Yeah.
agree, disagree? Do you think it's complicated?
Definitely complicated.
Definitely complicated. Paul, I want you to kick us off. Why do you think it's complicated?
Okay. So gambling and playing the lottery, that sounds very extreme. But when you go into investing, the one thing we always tell clients is that this is not guaranteed, right? The important thing with investing is obviously the funds that you are invested in. So it's important to do what we call a risk appetite. What kind of an investor are you? Are you more of an aggressive investor? Do you want to go into like those aggressive funds where now your money will most likely be invested into offshore funds? Are you more of a moderate person? If you moderate, you want to tap into a little bit of risk, but then you don't want to overexpose yourself to the risk. And then if you are conservative, you're like, you know what? I want some kind of growth on my investment, but I don't want to gamble. I don't want to, go into an aggressive fund to a point where I could potentially lose my money. So aggressive funds are your high risk, high return type of investments where you are also required to invest a little bit longer into those kind of investments if you want to yield the results that you want to get from that kind of investment. So if you're going conservative, you like, I just want a 6%, a 8% return out of my investment. I don't want to go too crazy because I don't want to risk losing my money. So the gamble comes where the performance of the fund doesn't perform the way that we anticipated to perform, market fluctuations, and so forth. And with everything that's been happening in the market, we came from a Russia-Ukraine war. Funds were completely unstable during that time. So people were panicking, wanting to, withdraw their investments and so forth. So I guess the gamble part of the investment is the funds that you invest yourself in or that you get invested in. So it's important to do that check with your financial advisor and also know yourself. Like, check your money personality as well and understand, am I more of a conservative person or do I like to play more onto the risky side?
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Miranda, I'm keen to hear from you. I know you said it's complicated. And I wonder, Miranda, if are we saying it feels like gambling or the lottery? Because sometimes we're impatient and investing requires an element of patience. Miranda, keen to hear from you.
Absolutely. I think when you're talking about gambling and playing the lottery, if you look at the probabilities of you getting anything back from there, they are terrible, right? The probability of you ever winning from gambling or ever winning the lottery is one in infinity, right? The probabilities are not in your favor. But when we're looking at investing, we then look at it around in the sense of we can look at previous history to then predict where it's going to go in the future. And what Mpho is talking about in terms of looking at different funds, knowing your risk appetite and all of those things, the probabilities of you completely losing your money if you've invested and followed certain steps are very minimal, but there is still that risk exposure that is different to then you saving, for example. So there's all of those things that come into play. But when we're looking around thinking about gambling or playing the lottery, your money is better being invested than doing those things when we're looking at probability's sake.
That makes sense. Silo adds to it and says it's definitely false. It's not gambling if you know what you are doing, which I think is so true. Pretty says it's complicated. Kholile says it's definitely true. So quite interesting that even in the chat, there's a little bit of a mix. But I completely agree with both of you ladies. I think that makes sense. I think the risk is important. The patience is also important. And knowing what you're actually doing when it comes to investing is another thing. Alrighty, so getting into hot take number 2, and basically says this: your investment does not need to make money immediately for it to be a good investment. So you can't buy shares today, then tomorrow they increase, and then you say it's a good one. But if it goes down, you say, yeah, better lento. But it's only been 24 hours. So your investment does not need to make money immediately for it to be a good investment. Agree, disagree, complicated? Miranda, where do you stand with this one?
I agree.
Agree. Mpho, where do you stand with this one?
Totally agree.
Love it, because most people in the chat are also agreeing with this one, which means we can move on to the last one. The last one says this: the first step to investing is knowing yourself, which Mpho sort of touched on it already. The first step to investing is actually knowing yourself, right? Mpho, do you want to kick us off? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I know where you're going to go with it, but I'm just asking, so you're still in the game with us.
I totally agree. Knowing yourself in terms of knowing and understanding your money personality, and not just in investing, but also in saving. So going back to, I think there was a question where someone was asking, where do I save my money and how do I know which one is good for me? Your money personality actually does play a huge role, because if you know when a woman transfer in the middle of the month, maybe a normal savings account might not be good for you. So I agree.
Yeah. Miranda, I'm assuming you agree with this one as well, that the
Yeah,
first step is
yeah.
actually knowing yourself as well.
Absolutely. But I think more than knowing yourself, once you know yourself, what are you going to do with that information? Because someone might know themselves in the sense that they're afraid to take risks, but that shouldn't take them out of wanting to invest. Once you know that you're afraid of taking risk, how are you then going to approach the investing conversation? Getting in touch with someone who's a financial planner, a professional who can then guide you in the right steps. Don't just stay there and being afraid, because as time goes, as we know, investing, your best friend is time. So the more time you're losing out, you can't get that time back. So don't stay there as, now I know myself, I'm afraid of taking risk, this is where I'll stay. But engage with the conversation, engage with professionals who can help you move from afraid to a little bit more confident, and then get started with investing and put your money to work.
That definitely makes sense. And I think it's a perfect time for Mpho to cook us her recipe when it comes to investing. If I've got $100, where do I go in terms of the investing? So this is where we give Mpho the opportunity to tell us a little bit more about Investing 101. So Mpho, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tebo. Before I begin with my presentation, I just want to hear from the people in the comment section. How much do you think you must earn and have for you to be able to start investing? So if you think about investing, how much do you think you must earn for you to qualify to invest? And how much is the minimum you think you can actually invest? Let's see. 15K. Silo says 15K. Okay. Is this what you want to invest, or how much you want to earn to invest? You must earn above minimum wage. Okay. Investing is for everyone. Love that. 10K net. Okay. As a student, Asanda's saying 2K. Okay. You can definitely invest 100 Rand. Absolutely, Homozo. I saw someone saying you can also start investing from as little as 50 Rand. That's Abdul. 100%. So today I'm just going to be taking you through investing, the fundamentals of investing, and just to debunk some of the myths that people have. And the reason I asked the question, how much do you think you must earn? How much do you think you must have towards your investment? Because a lot of people think you need to have large sums of money to be able to start your investment journey. So investing is basically putting your money to work for you, making your money work for you. You are earning an interest so that it can work for you in the future. So you definitely don't need a lot of money to start investing. You need a reason, consistency, and time to start investing. So as we were going through the hot money takes, I mentioned that, when it comes to investing, time is an important element of the growth on your investment, because obviously you're not going to plant a seed today and tomorrow you have a whole tree that is producing fruit. So before you start your investment journey, these are the questions that I want you to ask yourself. What are you investing for? So similar to saving, Miranda has took us through the different reasons why a person can save. You can save towards a deposit for a car or a house. You can save towards paying your school fees. So have a reason why you are investing. And then once you've determined your reason for investing your money, then it will help you decide where your money should be invested, how long you need to keep the money invested, how much risk you are comfortable taking in your investment, and which type of investment will suit your goal. So if you're saying, for example, I just had a newborn and I want to take my child to the best schools. I want to save for about 10 years so that I can afford to take my child to a private high school. Or I want to save for 10 years so I can afford to pay for my child's university fees without depending on a bursary or anything like that. So already you've determined how long you want to save. And then you've also determined the reason for you to invest. It's taking your child through school. And then where your money will then be invested will also be determined by the risk that you are comfortable in taking. Another important factor when it comes to where your money gets invested is your income. So I guess this is where now people become scared to start investing, because obviously your income does play a role in where you are invested, but only on the tax side. So the investment tool that you are going to invest in will determine how much tax you will be taxed on your investments. So unfortunately, apart from the tax-free investment, all investments are taxed. So some investments are taxed using your income tax bracket, and then some investments have their own tax percentages. So this will just be determined by your income and the income tax bracket that you fall into. It is also important to understand how you feel about money. I mentioned the money personalities and the level of risk you are willing to take. So when you sit with a financial advisor for the first time and you're trying to determine your risk appetite, like I mentioned previously, if you are a conservative person who doesn't want to take risk, but however you do want to grow your money, then that means you are more of a conservative investor. If you feel like I'm comfortable with taking a little bit of risk, but then I don't want to go too much to a point where I actually lose a little bit of the capital that I have invested, then you are a moderate investor. If you say, you know what, I want to max this thing out, I want to get the most out of this investment, and I'm okay with leaving the investment for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So for the purpose of this example, I'm working with an example of 10 years for someone who wants to take their child to university. So they can say, actually, because I have 10 years, I can invest into an aggressive fund. This gives the investment enough time to cook. All right. So with the example of 100 rands, right? When you think about investing 100 rand, and if you are doing simple math, you're like, in 1 year, this 100 rand is only going to be 1,200. And if you look at this illustration, so this illustration is assuming a growth rate of 10%. And this is compound interest, which is compounded monthly. But I want to show you something here. When we spoke about saving, Miranda touched on getting yourself into the habit of saving, right? And getting yourself used to, when you get paid, you must pay yourself first. That is building the habit of saving. And when you now start investing as well, you're also getting yourself into the habit of investing and also allowing your money to grow and letting time do what it needs to do with your investment. So on year number 1, you're looking at an estimated growth of 57 Rand. And when you think about it, you're like, what was the point? 57 Rand. And this is just on 1 year. But let's look at what happens to your investment as you go along. If you invest for 3 years, you would have contributed 3,600 Rands in the 3 years, and your estimated investment value will be sitting at 4,178. Now you have a growth of 578, which you wouldn't have gotten if your money was sitting under a mattress somewhere or just in a savings account that doesn't give you as much interest. What I also want to highlight is that saving and investing are different, because on the investing side, you get to get a little bit more interest than what you would get from a savings account or from a notice account, right? So a fixed deposit account from the bank can give you a little bit of interest, but then it's not compared to what an investment would actually give you. Remember, the growth of your investment is also determined by your risk appetite. Whereas on the savings side, you don't really get to do a risk analysis, but you do get some sort of growth on on the savings account. So the purpose of a savings account is just to keep your money safe and to give you some sort of growth. But then when it comes to investing, now we are actually growing your money. If we look at your contributions on year number 5, you would have contributed 6,000 rands in total, and your estimated investment value will be 7,744. Now you have earned interest of 1,744 from your investment, and then in 10 years you've got a total of 20,484 just by saving 100 rands a month. Guys, if you think about it, if you have 100 rands in your account, it's easy for you to just go to McDonald's and buy a Big Mac or a McFeast. How much is a Big Mac? Around 100 rands, right? So over 10 years, those Big Macs would have actually accumulated to 20,484. So Big Mac or investing or your investment, right? So the key thing here is that the longer you keep your money, the more powerful investment can actually be. So the longer you keep your money invested, the more powerful your investment can actually be. If we can move on to the next slide. All right, cool. So let's now look at the power of compound interest. When we look at the first year, it looked like, you know what, there's no point in doing this. And this is where a lot of people will then decide to cash out their money and enjoy their money instead, because they're just like, what am I going to do with 57 rands interest? But if you look at your 100 rands in 20 years, you would have an estimated investment value of 75,973. Now, do you still think it's not worth it to put 100 rands every month if you're going to have 75,937 after 20 years? And then in 30 years, you have about 260,508. So like we mentioned, and we're going to keep on emphasizing this, that with the example of 100 rand is just to get you into the habit of investing. Obviously, as your income grows, your goals change, something else comes up, you get lump sums in between, you can always increase your investment value. But for the purpose of this illustration, we're just trying to show you how much or what compound interest can actually do for your investment. We can move on to the next slide. Okay, so maybe you guys are asking yourself, where do I even invest this money? Because now I've mentioned investments that are going to tax you according to your income tax bracket. Someone is on the last income tax bracket and they're thinking, what's the point? Because almost half my money is going to be charged by tax. But for the purpose of investing 100 rands, I would recommend investing it into a tax-free investment account. To clarify what a tax-free, I know there's a lot of information on social media and we've had conversations around this a lot. So there's a difference between a tax-free savings account and a tax-free investment account. So you can have a tax-free savings account with your bank, and you can have a tax-free investment account with an investment company where you actually get to do a risk analysis and your money gets invested into the funds that match your risk appetite, right? So the tax-free itself is not the investment. So think of it like a container where you get to put your money. And within that container, there's different compartments where you can take your money. So it depends which compartment you put your money. Those compartments will then determine what the growth on your investment will be. So a tax-free investment is the container. What you put inside is the actual investment. Inside that container, your money could be invested in things like shares, bonds, property, cash, or a mix of different assets. And previously, I mentioned that if you are an aggressive investor, you could be invested more into offshore funds. So this is where now a mix of different assets come in. So You've got local shares, you've got offshore shares, you've got local bonds, you've got offshore bonds, you've got local property, you've got offshore property, you've got offshore cash, and a mix of local and offshore funds. So what determines this again is your risk appetite and where you want to be invested. Another interesting part is that you can actually have investments like an actual offshore investment for people who are even considering relocating to another country, or if you are considering going to study in another country, working in another country, whatever the case may be, then you can say, you know what, I don't want my money invested in rands. Maybe I should go and invest it into an offshore investment so that when I do finally get that job in the US or wherever you move to outside of the country, then you can still remain invested. Do we have another slide? Okay. So the tax-free investment gives you the tax benefits. So for 100 rands, if you are going to invest your 100 rand into, let me make an example with a unit trust. When it comes to investing, there are fees that are involved in the investments. So for those who have actually taken out an investment, there is a breakdown on your investment policy document or on your investment document that shows how much the investment company is actually charging you to have this investment. So can you imagine your 100 rands being charged, you being taxed from your 100 rands and also being charged fees on your 100 rands? So the tax-free model, besides it being tax-free, it's also very low when it comes to investment fees or investment management fees. So when it comes to the investment fees, you've got asset management fees, you've got administration fees, you've got financial advisor fees, because we also get paid from your investments. But that's a story for another day. But there's a whole breakdown of fees. However, the tax-free investment wrapper or container is one of the investments that are very, very, very low in fees. And again, you don't pay any tax on this investment. Remember that there are rules around the tax-free. So should you find yourself in a position where you can actually now afford to contribute more than 100 rand towards your tax-free, you are capped at how much you can contribute towards your tax-free investment. So you have up to 500,000 rands per lifetime for your tax-free investment. And then every year you can only contribute up to 46,000 rands into a tax-free investment. If you are going to make a lump sum contribution towards your tax-free, say you have money that you have saved and you realize that, you know what, I actually want to grow this money. I don't want it to sit into this fixed deposit anymore. I want to put it into an investment. You've got about 46,000 rands and you can put that as a lump sum into your tax-free investment. But you can only put that lump sum in one tax year. So another lump sum, you can only be able to put another lump sum the following tax year. So you are capped at 46,000 rands per tax year. And then if you're going to be doing monthly contributions, you are capped at 4,300 rands every single month for your tax-free investments. So I'm only giving the example of a tax-free, guys. There's many other investments. To go through them, time wouldn't be on our side. However, because we are investing 100 rands, and I'm just trying to give a simple investment tool that anybody that's in this webinar says, I want to start investing 100 rand and I don't know where to start. A tax-free is the easiest tool you can consider. I will say though, if you are looking to invest long-term, even though the tax-free investment is a flexible investment, it being flexible means that you can access your investment at any time. Think about the long-term benefits of having a tax-free investment, right? So you have 500,000 rand per lifetime in this investment. But if you keep on withdrawing from this investment, you are chowing into this 500,000 rands tax-free that you have per lifetime. So use it as a long-term investment tool so that you can actually enjoy this entire 500,000 rands tax-free element per lifetime. If when you reach that 500,000 rands cap, unfortunately, you cannot contribute further. You cannot contribute anything below 500,000 rands. However, your growth on the investment can go above 500,000 rands tax free. However, SARS will then tax you, I think, about 40% if you contribute anything above the 500,000 rands cap on your investment. So I didn't want to complicate it. There's many other investments and other reasons why you might want to invest. So we'll cover those in another date.
We can definitely have another day. Thank you so much, Paul, for taking us through saving and investing with $100. I think you and Miranda did an absolutely amazing job. So for those that have questions, please do get into the chat. Any question around saving, around investing, we'll do our best to answer them. So while people are still busy concocting their questions and thinking about it, we actually have 2 voice notes that we actually received with questions specifically for 2 of our guests. So I'm going to play each of those voice notes and then get a sense from our 2 guests. So just give me a second as I start to play this voice note, and here it comes.
Hi there. My name is Ramako Kafunanani. My question is, I want to save my 100 rand for a small goal, but I always end up using it. How do I stay focused and not touch the money until I do my goal? Thank you.
All right, so that's the first one around the temptation around money. We're going to play the second one, and then I'm going to get the opinions of our 2 guests. So this is our second voice note.
Hi, my name is Sina Ricoto, and I have a question for saving or investing. So the question is, if you were advising someone with a small income who wants to build a real wealth over the next 10 years or maybe 5 years less, what will be the smartest saving and investing strategy to start with me today? And what common mistakes should they avoid taking or doing?
Cool. So 2 different questions. Very, very interesting. Miranda, I'm maybe going to give you the first one around the temptation when it comes to saving and investing. I'm putting this money away. What mali from time to time? How do I ensure that the temptation doesn't get the best of me?
I think the first thing I would say is to interrogate whether that amount that you're saving is actually amount that you can afford to save within your living conditions. Why I say this is that a lot of us are feeling a little cash strapped at the moment. The economy is shifted, and maybe you haven't shifted your budget to align with how your lifestyle actually looks. So you're still saving X amount of money, but within your disposable income, because of the increase in petrol, because of the increase in other areas, you might find that you're struggling to even save that amount, but you've committed to it. And now you can only save, instead of 100 Rand, you can only save 50 Rand realistically. That's why you keep going back and using that money. That would be the first thing. The second question would then be, what is the goal? And is your goal emotionally attached to it? For example, if you want to save, you're saving this 100 Rand and you want to save this money for something that is not attached or in line to your emotional connection to it. Maybe it's a far-fetched dream or something that you're just saving because you know you need to save. There's nothing that's tying it. There's no specific why behind it, because then the why will filter if you are going in and digging into this money. Before you even go there, you remember, oh, this is why I'm saving. Do I really need this money now? And it will keep you aligned. So I'd say ask yourself one of those 2 questions. Can I comfortably afford to save this amount of money? Am I realistic with what I'm saving? Do I need to adjust what I'm saving to be in line with where I am currently? And then the second thing, why am I saving? Is this why big enough? Is this why strong enough? So that I can keep focused and on the goal and not go and dig it. Because if you're constantly digging and withdrawing from this, then maybe your why isn't that strong, and you need to instill a stronger why and something that's going to be attached more to your emotions. I find that if it's an emotional thing or something that's really, really important for you, you are less tempted to dig into it and use that money at any specific time.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then, Paul, maybe we can deal with the second voice note, particularly the last bit of it, which is the danger, things going wrong with an investment. Because I know you spoke a lot about long term, but the last part was quite interesting to say, when I am investing, what are some of the dangers? What are some of the things that could go wrong with it?
Okay. So before you put your money into an investment, you need to have gone through um, the risk analysis, number one. Very important because that determines your growth. We need to have checked your income as well and what income tax bracket you fall into in order for us to decide which investment tool we're going to invest you in or which investment wrapper we're going to invest you in. Thirdly, we also need to look at your investment goal. How long do you want to have this money invested? Because can you imagine a situation where someone gets invested into an investment that locks them in for 5 years, and on top of that, it taxes them more than what their income tax is, or more than what their income tax bracket is. Already, that person is in the wrong investment, and they have a 3-year goal instead of a 5-year goal. So, how are they going to get out of that investment? So, it's important to familiarize yourself with the terms and conditions. How long am I going to be locked into this investment? If it's an investment that locks me in, if I want to withdraw before the lock-in period or before the maturity period, what are the penalties? How do they penalize me? Miranda also mentioned something about a 32-day notice account where you are able to withdraw money from a 32-day notice account, but then what is the penalty for you investing or being saving money into a 32-day notice account that you're going to be penalized from, right? So in terms of the markets can fluctuate. However, the performance of a fund is determined by the previous performance. So we look at the previous trends, we look at how well this fund was performing in the last 3 years, and that will determine the growth that you would get in the future from that particular investment or from that particular fund. So the worst thing you can do for yourself is knowing that you are a conservative investor and then you go and invest into an aggressive fund, and then also knowing that you are on the 18% income tax bracket, and then you go and invest into an endowment that's going to tax you at 30% when you could have went for a tax-free investment, or you could have went for a unit trust investment that's going to tax you at your income tax. And just familiarizing yourself with the tax on investments. It's quite a lengthy conversation when it comes to tax on investments, but just understanding capital gains tax and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know we're completely out of time, so I've just got two more questions. I'll give each of our speakers just 30 seconds just to wrap it up for us for the two questions, because goodness me, lots of questions and not enough time all the time. So Miranda, maybe I'm going to start with you. A really interesting question that we've received, and I think you're perfect for it. What should you prioritize when you're starting with a small amount? Saving, investing, or potentially paying off some debt? So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to give us your opinion on that one.
I think you can look at the type of debt it is. Is it a long-term debt, like a home loan, for example? If it's short-term debt that has higher interest, it's good to prioritize that. But I'd always say within prioritizing that, having some form of saving, because you don't want to focus so much on paying off debt, but you've got no savings. Now you have an emergency, you then go back into the cycle of debt. So if you've got 100 Rand, as we're speaking around 100 Rand, or maybe 1,000 Rand, for example, available to either save, invest, or pay off debt, I'd say split it, that maybe 500 Rand going more towards paying off one of your debts or some form of debt, and 500 Rand building your starter emergency fund, and then working that way. So as you're paying off your debt, you're also saving as well. And then I would always say investing is like at the bottom of the list, in the sense of once you've reduced the debt, you've built up some form of savings, you then start kicking into the investing conversation. But you never want to sit on your hands too long and leave investing till the end, because as we spoke around here, time is of the essence and it's important. But structuring it based on priorities is important as well. It doesn't make sense locking your money away in an investment when you're drowning in debt and paying high interest. Balancing it out and looking at those different things really is important. So try to do both at the same time, and manage it that way.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Mpo, your last one, and I'll also give you 30 seconds as well. It's also a really interesting one. The person says, with investment apps, banks, social media, advice, AI tools, and online platforms and information everywhere, what should a beginner take note of before actually making an investment? So with all this information out there, how do I know what information is right when I'm making an investment?
Okay. The nice thing about information is that it's good to have information because you are learning about what you are trying to get into. Now, advice then comes in when you now have all this information and you sit with a financial advisor and you say, I have all this information around these kind of investments. However, I don't know what is the right investment for me personally. So let us look at my current situation. Let us look at my goals so that we can determine with all this information that I have, where do I invest? So you do what we call a financial needs analysis with a financial advisor because you won't do a financial needs analysis from an Instagram live. You can't do a financial needs analysis just from this conversation that we are doing. It can only be done with an expert who will look at your situation and assess. And with all the information that you have, you can then decide on an investment tool that is suitable for your needs once you have conducted a financial needs analysis with your financial planner. So my advice is that take all that information, keep it, have it, take it to your financial advisor.
Absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Mpho. Thank you so much, Miranda. The wealth of information that you guys have shared has been absolutely amazing. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
Lovely,
You
lovely,
are very much
lovely.
welcome, Tebo. Thank you for having us.
Oh, fantastic. I could go on the whole night just having conversations.
I know. Give us more time.
Let's go. Let's go.
In the chat. Perhaps we need to have them a second time around because there's so much to discuss as well. And I know we do also need to mention who our voucher winners are. So once again, a big shout out to Miranda and to Mpho as well. So I'm going to get them off stage for now. And of course, like I mentioned right at the beginning, our webinar is part of Money Smart Week 2026, an amazing campaign that is run by Treasury to get people to start thinking a bit about their money through a whole lot of events and activities. And we'd love for you guys to let the team at Money Smart Week know what you thought of our session, of our webinar. So please do scan the QR code. And once you've scanned it, you start filling in all the information on the sheet. It will ask you who delivered this workshop. And please either add Wafunda or add Blackbullion South Africa. So we'll also share this via email. But if you do have your phone out, please do also scan that QR code. But we will also be sharing it with you guys. And of course, we know we've gotten to that point where we have to give away the vouchers. I've even got a drum roll. Yes, guys have become so fancy. Please listen to. Hey, but just become fancy these days. So these are our 4 voucher winners. A big shout out to you, Mandisa Skosana. Big shout out to you, Bongani Mnisi, Asanda Kubega, and Karabelo Cele. A big shout out to you guys. Look out for our emails with your vouchers. It's a KFC voucher, it's a discount voucher. Look out for that. Big shout out to our 4 lucky winners, Mandisa Skosana, Bongani Mnisi, Asanda Kubega, and Karabelo Cele. Thank you guys so much. And a big shout out to you guys for joining our session here at Blackbullion as part of Money Smart Week. It's been absolutely amazing. It brings it to the end of the session. And of course, this webinar was part of Money Smart Week South Africa 2026. A big and massive shout out to our 2 guests, to Sanlam Foundation, to our partners, but most importantly to you for joining the session. And like I mentioned, please do scan that QR code. Please do sign up and get onto the Blackbullion platform. And if you have any questions, do email us blackbullion@wafunda.com. Thank you so much for joining our webinar. Have a fantastic and awesome evening.